So let's say you found a skeleton. How would you tell if it's a dinosaur? You personally, how would you decide?
Well, interesting question. I don't know. I'd have to do some research on that.
Hey everybody, welcome to Tisdall Tuesday number 3. I am here, of course, with Chesh, who introduced me to Laurance Tisdall in the first place, so this is all her fault.
You're so welcome.
Yeah, it's not often I come across a brand new creationist, because, like, I've been doing this for long enough that, like, if they're on YouTube, there's a fair chance I've found that creationist, and if I haven't covered them, it's probably because they're just boring as hell, because a lot of them are super boring.
It's repetitive.
Yeah, well, it's not just that it's repetitive, it's also just that, like, people will sometimes go through these repetitive points as if they're like a text to voice from, like, 2005, just reading off a script. And it's just like, oh god, what are you doing? Have some kind of charisma. Have some stage presence. And, like,
cease and desist.
Yeah.
You must have this much charisma to play.
Seriously. It's true, right? Like, there's a lot of people who are just so boring. Like, what's the point in covering them? I can find the same points from someone else who's delivering it in a way that I'm willing to sit through.
Yeah.
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 But Laurance Tisdall is actually one of them. I think that part of the reason I might not have heard of him is that I don't normally search for creationist content outside of English language media. And I think a fair bit of his content is in French because he's French-Canadian. So I think that might be part of it. And so yeah, you introduced me to this guy, and you were like, oh, we should cover this. And I was like, well, I have this time slot on Tuesday, second Tuesdays of the month. Yeah. And then later I came back and I'm like, hey, I found like 7 of these. So Chesh is stuck here with me for a little while.
I live here now.
Yeah, at least on the second Tuesday of the month. She has a room. Yeah. Unfortunately, it's the same room as the 3D printer, so you get a little bit of resin fumes. Yeah. Oh well. I mean, it's not usually on, but, like, it is in the room.
I'm gonna make my drink. I've been doing a diet, so this is my once a month drink that I get to do.
I feel honored that it's during the show.
Yeah, you should. I did it especially for you.
You know, I've been working on trying to lower my intake of animal products for numerous reasons. And today
animal products?
Yep. And today I had some plant-based sausages, and they weren't bad. They weren't great, but also they're like $2 per link, and they're just not worth that. Like, no.
That doesn't sound great. I don't mind, like, animal-based. Like, I like most vegetarian food because most vegetarian food is just food.
Right, yeah.
Food trying to pretend it's something it's not for an exorbitant price, not really up my alley.
Well, the thing is, like, you can do things with, like, the tube of food concept, right? Because it's really what I'm going for, is I want a plant-based protein that is in a convenient shape that I can, like, shove in a bun and just eat and have it be fine. I don't necessarily want it to be, like, replicate having, like, a pork sausage or something. I just want it to be fine.
Yeah, just be the thing that you are. You don't need to pretend to be something else. Same with, like, by the way, if you're doing hot dogs, mustard has 0 calories.
Yeah, I put mustard on.
So if you want an additive for your food, mustard.
I cooked these, so I put them in a pan with a little bit of oil and a quarter of an onion, of a big yellow onion. And so I caramelized the onion, put that at the bottom of the bun, layer of, well, you know, a squirt of mustard, and then it was good. It wasn't great. It was just not probably worth the, I don't know, like $2.50 or so that each one of those cost. So, you know. Anyway.
I did upset Dapper the other day because I specifically made a Blue Sky post and then sent it to him, so make sure he would see it.
Yeah, it was, I think technically you're wanted in The Hague. You should probably stay out of Europe.
I made the obscene statement of saying that ketchup is just tomato jam.
Yeah, and to which I just responded, why would you go and do this? Who hurt you?
Viscerally.
Yeah.
Responded viscerally.
Yeah. But we're not primarily here to talk about the ups and downs of cooking. We are mostly here for the Laurance Tisdall. And so, We will go through the drinking rules, because we got drinking rules on here. You can see a drinking number there. We haven't had any drink triggers yet, so, you know. And then we will go through a little quick recap of what he was up to when we just left off last time, and then we'll get into that. So, we will take a drink if Laurance Tisdall says something that's so stupid we just kind of have to, just to cool our brains down. We need some brain, coolant. We'll all stick
lubricant.
Well, yeah, it's. Sometimes I say
Keep the
lubricant,
gears
sometimes
turning.
coolant. Yeah, it's a little bit of both, right?
Yeah.
So we'll also take a drink if Laurance Tisdall tells a joke that doesn't land or a story that didn't happen. Now it's going to be a little bit of a judgment call, especially on the stories. But here's one thing: the drink triggers are just made up nonsense that we do. So like, if I get it wrong and it's a story that did happen and Laurance Tisdall can prove it or something, oh well, who cares? It's nothing going on here is terribly serious. This is a sort of a relax, hang out with chat, hang out with cool co-hosts kind of a deal here. So if it turns out we're wrong about either any of these judgment calls, it doesn't really matter. But we will all take a drink if Laurance Tisdall mentions that political movement from the 1930s into the 40s in Germany that had a big old mustachy man with a smallish mustache. Because it turns out he was actually a really big Charlie Chaplin fan and really liked The Dictator and didn't notice that it was literally making fun of him the entire time. So that's a fun thing. No self-awareness. That's obviously my biggest criticism of that guy is his lack of self-awareness.
Well, maybe with a little bit of self-awareness, a lot of those things wouldn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, we're reliving the idea of a crazy narcissist with no self-awareness being in charge of a large industrialized country. That's just...
Be surprised what self-awareness will do for you.
Yeah. Hey, at least we don't have any credible stories about the mustache guy going to a island to do things with children that might get this video taken down. We don't have that.
We don't have that.
On at least that front, current narcissists in charge of a large industrialized country actually worse on that front. That's fun.
So far.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Working on being worse on all fronts because we were already building concentration camps, so that's good.
Yep.
I don't know why we went into that when I said this was supposed to be a relaxed, fun time.
Don't look at me. I was talking about tomatoes and ketchup.
I'm not blaming. Well, I mean, yeah, but in a traumatizing way.
Oh, so maybe it is my fault.
Yeah. Anyway, we will also take a drink if Laurance Tisdall. I lost my train of thought almost entirely. If he mentions anything about what we can know about the skeleton Lucy, of the specimen of Australopithecus afarensis, and he conflates what we can know just based on that skeleton with what we can know about her taxon based on other skeletons. So, for instance, if he's like, well, Lucy wasn't found with foot bones, so we don't know if her big toe was divergent. We don't know if she could walk upright. Yes, we do. We have the feet of other Australopithecus specimens, and so that is what we call a ad hominid. Let's see. Jillian Wren says he did, on the other hand, have an affair with his niece. Yeah, well, the current one apparently has the hots for his daughter. So, like, is that really a difference there?
It's definitely worse.
He said on multiple occasions that he would date his daughter.
At least a niece has more genetic diversity.
I don't like it.
That's where we gotta go.
No, we can just leave it as it's terrible all around. Okay, so we will also take a drink if either Chesh or I can predict what's coming next for Laurance Tisdall when it's not very clear. We will also take a drink if Laurance Tisdall cites a source, we check the source, and rather than just failing to support him, which is almost always going to be the case if it's a creationist citing a non-creationist, if it actively contradicts him, then we take a Trojan source drink. I think that covers all the ones for him. Also, if I screw up the production on this, for instance, if we come back from a break and I forget to unmute Chesh, or accidentally mute myself to like cough or something, and I don't unmute myself, and then Chesh starts talking, we have a conversation that you can't hear, half of at least, yeah, that's Dapper's a professional, and we take a drink for that. Now, if it's the computer crashing, or YouTube blowing up, or Canada being on fire again, that's not my fault. Of course, Canada's always on fire lately.
Still on fire.
Yeah. Have you stopped being on fire in literally in the last year or so?
Yeah, winter happened.
Oh, okay. There wasn't a winter fire in defiance of all logic?
Not yet.
Okay.
Soon, though, probably.
Yeah,
If
maybe-
not next year, within the next 5 years, winter fire.
Okay, that'll be fun.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe in 5 years, Canada will be warm enough that it won't be a frozen wasteland, and I can feel comfortable existing in that area.
It'll be on fire.
Yeah, which is what I'm looking for, basically.
Yeah.
Need the heat. So yeah, we will all take a drink. If any of you super chat, membership, milestone chat, anything with any of our kaiju emojis, or anything to the effect that AIG are a bag of dicks, take a drink for that. We will also take a drink for each gifted membership. And remember, we are trying to get a Mudkip Davis emoji, which we are. I don't know how far we are away from it right now, but I'm gonna check because it's good to stay open and transparent and about that. Let's see. So I believe we need 500, and YouTube is taking absolutely forever to load. So it looks like we need 170 right now is what we would need. So also we do have incentives for, the things that happen if we hit certain funding goals. So I usually don't go over them, but I figure we will this time. So if we get to a certain, I believe it's 84% or so, Bent will get some free pizza. That means I will just buy Bent pizza. It may not be tonight since we usually go, till like 8 at my time. That's usually later than I want to eat dinner. So it might end up being like tomorrow or on the weekend or something. But he will get a pizza. If we get to 100%, I will have a poll up as to what avatar to use in the next video. I actually should have animated today, but I didn't have it in me. And so I was like, my excuse is, maybe we'll get a fancy avatar tonight, and that'll just be the next video. Hey, get us that fancy avatar. Roshina for $1.99 says Canada needs to rake its forests. Yeah, get on that.
You don't want to have that conversation with me, I assure you. Come over to my channel and we'll talk about it.
Yeah. So and
I'll berate you.
I can say each gifted membership, is a drink, and that goes to a certain point. Like if we have 30 that I'm supposed to take a drink, I'm just going to finish this gin and tonic, which by the way is a weird one. I have elderflower tonic water, which is fairly expensive because the reasonably priced tonic water was out, and I still have gin. But I also have like the cheapest imaginable gin because when I make my when I make a prickly pear gin and tonic, the prickly pear is a pretty strong flavor, so there's not a whole lot of point in getting like a subtly flavored fancy gin because it's gonna those subtle flavors are gonna get overpowered by the
get smeared off.
pear. Yeah. So like I go with a cheap gin, but now I have the problem of a really cheap gin in a very very fancy gin and tonic, so it's gonna be weird. But anyway, I think that is all of that. So Laurance Tisdall is going to be talking to us about science and how he can show that evolution doesn't actually meet any of the empirical like qualities to be science, but creationism does. So that'll be interesting to see. Yeah. Also, he did previously, like right before he got to that point, say he's only going to be quoting evolutionists, which means what he's going to be doing is cherry picking a lot. Hence the title of this stream. Borgin Poirier Borgin Poirier 2026 says, how about one of the goals be that Dapper gets a new tie that is not blue? I'll tell you what, we'll do that.
Ooh.
Here's what we'll do. We'll do a super chat goal. All right. We have 50 teal super chats in the next 2 hours. Then I will change my tie color based on. There we go.
Nice.
Yep. Joshua Geese for $5 says, when you first said elderflower, my first thought it was Saint Germain. Yeah, that checks out. All right, so Chesh, are you ready to go in for more of Laurance Tisdall? That's either you're playing a video game with a really weird controller, or you're giving me the thumbs up. I'm going to take it as a thumbs up.
Then they kissed.
Your thumbs kissed?
Yeah.
Are they in love?
Get to so far. All right, keep them going.
Oh, by the way, when he says keep them going, what he means is his big black balls that he handed out to the audience, in case that wasn't something you remember. For some reason, he has the audience handling his balls.
Yep.
So yeah, that's a thing.
A hypothesis is empirical or scientific only if it can be Tested by experiment. Oh,
I agree. Let's take a drink. That's correct.
Huzzah!
All right. Lieutenant Beth Navigator says, "For the love of Pete, don't give Dapper a beige tie." They might. You never know. You never know what's going to happen.
I really want beige nail polish, and I haven't been able to successfully get beige yet.
Have you considered making your own?
No.
Okay. Well, maybe consider making your own.
I don't wanna.
Well, in
I
that
considered
case, suffer.
Just now.
Okay. I mean, I don't even know what goes into making your own nail polish, but I know it's a thing that you can do.
Oh yeah, it is certainly a thing you could do. It's not a thing I'm going to do.
Hey, Strawberry Vein, if you're in chat or you see this later, maybe get with Chesh because you make nail polish.
okay. So it's only scientific empirical. This is from an evolution called biological evolution. A hypothesis or theory which cannot be, at least in principle, falsified by empirical observations and experiments does not belong in the realm of science. Now, this isn't accepted by everybody, but I'll take it on.
Yeah, there are some people who have different thoughts about falsificationism and whatnot. I generally favor the idea that if it's completely non-falsifiable, then it really isn't a scientific hypothesis, although it might suggest a hypothesis that's later testable. So I wouldn't say we have to completely exclude it from the discussion in science, but it needs to lead to something that is itself testable. And if it doesn't, then I don't really consider that part of science in the strictest sense. Also, Jillian Wren says to check out Strawberry Veins Abomination Cosmetics. Pretty sure he's got a beige. Well, there you go. Abomination Cosmetics is what you want to check out.
Copy pasting.
All right.
The idea is if you can't show a way of disproving your theory doesn't have much validity. Okay, so we'll look at that.
Okay, so remember, if we can disprove it, so if it's disprovable, then it might be a valid scientific hypothesis, according to Laurance. Which means if it can be disproved, then at least it was a scientific hypothesis, but now it's disproved. Which might bode ill for, like, you know, the flood story. Just thinking out loud there.
This might come back to bite you in the butt.
Just a little bit. Or if you're gonna make your flood story unfalsifiable, well, guess what you just got rid of?
Okay, well, that's
Validity.
the second one on this list of nail polish is like exactly the color I'm looking for.
Well, there you go.
Oh, there's also something really. Ooh.
Strawberry Vein, I think I just got you another customer. You're welcome.
I'm going shopping.
That's called refutability. So how do we refute the creation?
It's usually called falsifiability, but also English is a second language. Not going to harp on it. I give way more passes to people who don't speak English as a first language when it comes to, like, using English weird, obviously. Like, if I were to try to give a talk like this in French, I'm sure I would do a worse job with French than he's doing with English.
Creation model. Well, the creation model would lose credibility if we observed in nature plasmid membranes, DNA molecules, and the enzymes necessary for their synthesis forming spontaneously, coexisting, and interacting.
Okay, that is one thing that would do it. Also, it would do it if we could find that, say, the actual genetic diversity of life failed any ability to be reconstructible under a separate ancestry model, or if we could just find really good physical evidence that the necessary things that happened, like the flood, just didn't happen. Those are other ways in which creation, at least in the specific sense of Christian young earth creationism, could be refuted. Would that refute the idea of, like, general creation, that there's a God who created the universe? No, it wouldn't. In fact, I don't know how I could refute that idea.
The existence of God is not a question for science.
Yeah, or at least
at least not in the realm of that we're discussing. It could theoretically be in science, but it would either be showing itself works beyond our current capabilities.
Yeah.
At least if you're talking about, like, the philosophical ideas and concepts of beings beyond ourselves. But if you're talking about the God of the Bible, oh yeah, that's pretty easy to deal with.
Yeah, I would say some God concepts are falsifiable and some are not.
Yeah.
Right? If they started just appearing on their own, because that's what's supposed to have happened,
Appearing on their own makes it sound like we would need a God. Do you mean
quantum physics?
Do you mean, like, appearing out of chemical systems? Because we do actually have viable chemical pathways for all those things. Like, we're working on that already. We've come a long
Yeah.
way. And do we currently have the capability to, like, assemble a basic living organism out of non-biotic chemistry? No. Will we ever? I don't know. But, like, we're getting closer. And of course, what he'll do, if that happens, is just what I've heard creationists say they'll do. Which they'll say, well, that just proves that it takes intelligence to design the situation in which life forms can arise. Okay, cool.
If the goalposts, you say.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Look, creationists mount all of their goalposts on wheels that themselves
Wheels?
have rockets attached.
That would disprove, because God doesn't say he did it that way.
Well, the Bible
God doesn't really say how
that.
he did it. He said he spoke.
Yeah, and that's also if you're going to take Genesis as literal, which you don't have to do to be a Christian. Like,
Right.
many Christians do not see Genesis 1 or, like, really Genesis 1 through 3 as things that they have to take as historical fact, which is good.
Believe it or not a requirement.
Yeah. Which it's also good because Genesis 1 contradicts the creation narrative in Genesis 2. And I know the Genesis 1 narrative goes into, like, the 4th verse of Genesis 2. I don't care. I'm just going to call it 1 and 2. So don't at me, Kip. I see you getting ready. I can tell.
That would disprove the creation. So we can refute it. There's other things, but we'll just go with that one for the moment. We'll keep it. And every theory is...
Lieutenant Matt the Navigator from 499 says, sometime in the future, you wouldn't download a puppy.
People would absolutely download a puppy. In fact, if there was something people were going to download, it would be a puppy.
Yeah. And here's the thing. Like, I remember when those you wouldn't download a car things started coming out. And my only thought was, I would absolutely download a car. Are you crazy?
Me and my friends went to like the movies and saw that thing come up, we were all like, what's stopping us? Like, why not?
Like, because they're trying to say, like, oh, it's like car theft. But the thing is, if I steal your car, you know what you don't have?
Car.
Right. But if I download a movie, you know what everyone who didn't download the movie still has?
The movie?
Right. If they had it before. Like, I didn't delete
Yeah.
a movie from existence. I didn't take your movie. I created
It'd
a
be
new
funnier
copy.
if you did.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, if I download a movie and then suddenly it's deleted from, like, the studio vault.
If you download a car and then my car was gone.
Yeah. In that case, actually,
I'm specifically downloading Chesh's car.
Right. In that case, no, I wouldn't download a car like that. Like, if that's what that meant, it was going to, like, teleport your car to me. No, I wouldn't. Because that would actually be stealing. No, I wouldn't.
It might be useful.
Okay, look.
Then we could share cars across the world.
Well, then that wouldn't be stealing. That would be with your permission.
Yeah, it wouldn't be stealing.
Yeah. And if I were to steal a car via internet teleportation, there are many cars that I would probably steal before your car. Mostly out of spite, because I actually have no idea if your car is any good. But there are people I spite enough that I would download their car.
Is only as good as its predictions, right? It has to be useful in science, has to be able to predict. So here's a prediction from the creation model, from the Genesis model.
Ooh, here we
the
go.
living and fossil worlds must present a strong discontinuity.
Okay. What is a strong discontinuity? Here's the thing. When you say it's testable, what that means is there are numbers that you could use to measure and then see whether or not your hypothesis is, like, viable. So how are we measuring discontinuity? What is your prediction for the amount of discontinuity? What is your measurement techniques for discontinuity? And you know what creationists don't have?
A metric.
Yeah, they don't have a metric. And they especially don't have a metric where they can say, this is how much our, like, null hypothesis would predict. Because if you're saying evolution isn't true, common ancestry isn't true, then common ancestry becomes your null hypothesis in that experiment. How much discontinuity would you expect in the fossil record if evolution is true? And the answer actually ends up being kind of a lot, specifically because most organisms aren't preserved as fossils, and some environments that we know existed in the past are spectacularly bad at leaving behind fossils in the first place, which means entire ecosystems have gone unrecorded in the fossil record. So we would expect significant amounts of discontinuity. What I would suggest, though, is that there should be only discontinuity in the fossil record, if separate creation is true. But you know what we don't find in the fossil record is no continuity whatsoever. So I would say this has already been falsified. But again, that's me projecting what my prediction would be. If you're a creationist and you think my prediction is bad, make your own prediction, justify it, and then run a test. Do the experiment.
That means that there's going to be breaks between the kinds. God says they will.
What's a kind, dude? I'm just taking a drink for what's a kind.
Yeah, we're taking a drink for what's a kind.
Because now you've introduced a new term that you haven't defined yet into your hypothesis, which means you've right now taken this hypothesis out of the realm of testability. Because it's fine if what your hypothesis is there should be no continuity between kinds, as long as you have a rigorous definition for kind. But you don't. So basically, you're just saying, well, if there is no continuity between the Gleepthorpes in the fossil record, then God must be real and it's my God. Oh, okay, well, what's a Gleepthorpe? I'm not going to tell you. Great. But
It's a thing that exists.
I will tell you there is only discontinuity among the Gleepthorpes. It's like, can I see? No. No, you
I
can't.
wore my Einstein shirt today.
Very nice. Cognitive trifurcation for $2 says, but would you upload a car, say a wank panzer? I would not upload a wank panzer, which, in case anyone doesn't know, is in fact a nickname for the Tesla Cybertruck. Because yeah, it's. I love that it's almost as deadly to its occupants as it is to any pedestrians nearby. Like,
It's the worst.
I'm not saying that I want you to die in a car fire if you bought a Cybertruck. What I am saying is if you do, you brought it on yourself.
You are statistically far more likely to be a danger to yourself and those around you. And if you get caught on fire, nobody's going to feel bad for you.
Yeah. Like, there was someone's like, millionaire trapped in Cybertruck as she drowns after driving into a lake. And I'm like, oh no.
LOL.
Yeah. Like, oh, you probably should have seen this coming. DM Wing, who's been a member for 36 months, and is at the emulate level, says 36 months with a bunch of deal with it dappers, 4 Godzilla emojis, and a Murphy emoji. Thank you very much. Take a drink. George, I'm going to call you George for now because I'm sorry, but your name is very, very, very long, and I feel like I'm screwing it up every time I try to read it. Says, it never said you wouldn't download a car. It said you wouldn't steal a car. Don't spread misinformation, mister. Oh, maybe I misremember it then.
No, I'm pretty sure it says download. It does say steal, but I'm pretty sure it does say download as well. I'm gonna check. I'll check. You keep going. I'll check. I'll check.
Right. But
I'm
George,
gonna citation needed this. I'll go look.
Hey, I've been wrong before. I might be wrong about this. George also says AIG is a bag of YouTube updates. Oof. Yeah, they are. Take a drink for that. Bitcourse, who's been a member for 30 months, is at the amulet level, says AIG is a bag of as many eggplants as I have months of membership, which is 30. And then the AIG is a bag of eggplants emoji. Thank you very much. I had fun making that emoji. That might be the emoji I had the most fun with, was making the AIG bag of dicks emoji. Alright. I think that means I'm caught up. Alright, here we go.
Will reproduce after their Berriman, after their kind. So that means there's going to be a break between kinds. It's not going to be a continuum.
Okay, but what's a kind, dude? That's the thing. You have to tell us what that is, because you just said Berriman. So you're introducing another term, Berriman, which, to be fair, is probably going to be synonymous with kind. But you have to both tell us that, and then tell us how you tell if there's a Berriman. And, Chesh, would you care to guess how Berrimans are distinguished in Berrimanology?
No, but I did find out that it does not say you wouldn't download a car. It says you wouldn't steal a car, and then it says that piracy is stealing and downloading
I was wrong.
videos is. So it's equating stealing to downloading, and therefore
Okay.
it doesn't literally say you wouldn't download a car, but it says that stealing and downloading are equatable terms, that they mean the same thing. So it is saying you wouldn't download a car. And that's why everybody went, but I would download a car.
Got it. Okay. All right.
But it never literally said that. It never literally wrote those words. It just built the argument that that's piracy is a crime and stealing is a crime and stealing is downloading content is stealing. Therefore, you wouldn't download a car.
Now, I do notice that we have 70 people or so watching, depending on which screen I look at. But we've only got 29 likes, which means that I have to say I like less than half of you half as well as you deserve. So, hey,
Dapper's just greedy for thumbs.
that's true. You only have the 2, it's not enough.
Also, it comes up if you type in you wouldn't download a car.
Well, okay. All right. So here's the cool thing about Barrowmans, right? So here, Laurance Tisdall is saying we should find discontinuity between the Barrowmans, which is just a fancy term that uses horrible Hebrew grammar to mean kind in the creation sense, which is to say a clade that does not share common ancestry with other clades. But creationists have this thing called baraminology, where they try to use character states and character matrices to measure the discontinuity between groups of organisms in order to determine where the kinds are. So what they're doing is they're saying, well, kinds are the organisms where we have discontinuity. And Laurance is saying there should be discontinuity between the kinds. But how did you figure out what the kinds were in the first place? You looked for the discontinuity. That's not going to work. That's not testable. You can't say the Barrowmans are Barrowmans, which is all he's saying. That doesn't mean anything. Even if you do come up with a limit, a number around discontinuity for character states, and then say, oh, we have lots of rigorous tests for this baraminology stuff, right? Even if you can do that, you can't then test that by saying, well, see, we found discontinuity. Yeah, that's how you determine the Barrowmans in the first place. If discontinuity is going to be your test for common ancestry versus separate ancestry, you can't have come up with your definition for kinds that you're using to test for separate ancestry by looking for that discontinuity in the first place. Joshua Geese says for $5, there we go. In my head, I'm hearing Theramins, and it's entertaining. That would be fun.
I'm hearing Thetans, which is a Scientology thing.
Yeah, it is. Jeez. Evil Ginger Miniatures, I almost said Evil German Miniatures, which, I don't know, is a new member. I feel like you remember already, but hey, welcome to Tetrapod. Everybody, send Tetrapod emojis. Welcome, Evil Ginger Miniatures.
And drink for membership.
I mean, we drink for gifted memberships, but I'm not going to stop you.
Well, I already did it, so.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm fine.
Cheers!
Yeah.
Mazel tov.
Okay, everybody follow that? So the key word, discontinuity. See, creationists look for differences, evolutionists look for similarities.
No, evolutionists, if we're going to use that term, look for the patterns of discontinuity, differences, and similarities. They're both important. And I'll describe that in a second after we read this from Lieutenant Math Navigator for $4.99 says, if Barrowman was a made-up term, we should see continuity between use of the term and an angry Vishanti. Well, we do, actually. We do, in fact, see that. So, yeah, I guess that works out. So, I just lost my train of thought entirely. What was he just talking about?
The one looks for similarities and one looks for differences, and that's just what that is a fallacy. It is a false dichotomy.
Yeah. So one thing that you want to keep in mind is when you're doing something like a cladogram, right? So you're doing character-based cladistics, where you're saying, okay, these organisms are checkbox yes for like has, I don't know, promaxillary fenestra or has hypertrophy digit 2 ungule or something, right? I'm describing dromaeosaurs and Deinonychosauria, in case you're wondering there. And so you get as many of these little boxes that you can check or leave unchecked as possible. And then you go through your taxa under consideration, and you check or leave unchecked all of these boxes. And then you usually feed this into a computer, although it is technically doable by hand, but my god, why would you want to? And you come up with things like, okay, give us, under different criteria, the most likely trees for all these things. And so what you're looking for are two different kinds of things. You're looking for plesiomorphies and apomorphies. And those are technical terms. Plesiomorphies are character traits that are primitive or basal to that group as a whole, right? So an example would be if you're looking at vertebrates, having 5 digits on your hands and feet is basal. So if you have fewer than that, which is pretty much the only option that we have for tetrapods, at least among extant tetrapods, losing those digits is probably a derived trait, so it's not a plesiomorphy. So that's a difference. And when you're looking for apomorphies, apomorphies are differences from plesiomorphies. So an apomorphy of, say, Neotheropoda might be 3 or fewer digits on the hand, right? So we're looking at things like Allosaurus, T-Rex, Deinonychus, birds, 3 or fewer digits. Cool. That's a difference from what the plesiomorphic condition is. So when you're looking both at plesiomorphies and apomorphies, you're looking at both similarities within groups and differences between groups. So to say that evolutionary biologists aren't looking for differences is just wrong. It's just factually incorrect. They absolutely are.
There's also another issue when you're talking about what is happening in that field of study versus what is the general populace's understanding of some terms. So there's a big difference between describing what's a woman and talking about, okay, well, when are you asking this question and where are you asking this question? Because you're going to get different answers depending on where you're looking at in history about what the expectation is of women in society. And it's a social question, not a technical term.
Yep. Hey, Matt, pay attention. Matt's never watching this. You know which Matt I mean.
Between the major groupings of life forms. So the creation process implies a distinct appearance of multiple creations. In other words, the distinct creations find their source in a creator, not one from another, until we get back to a single Luca. Okay?
Okay, but I mean, we've tested things like that, and it turns out to be falsified already. So, like, what are we going with here?
So let's start with the first one. We got a prediction. We can refute it. Let's see what the evidence holds. Is there in...
Actually, your prediction was circular and had an undefined term. So no, we can't actually test it. So yeah, I'm going to take a drink for that.
You have to go back to the drawing board.
Yep.
You're on step 1. You now need to revise your question.
Mm-hmm. Yep, unless your terms are all clearly defined and non-circularly defined, and you have a quantifiable prediction that can actually be falsified, you don't have a real hypothesis yet.
You do best to try to remove as much fallacious rhetoric as you can.
Yeah, that would help. Although, given that he's a creationist, I don't think he's physically capable of doing that.
It's tricky.
In the fossil record in the living world, is there evidence for discontinuity? Well, the first discontinuity...
Is that Newton?
It sure looks like it might be. Also, I want to know why he decided to give everything a blue filter. It's a weird choice. Like this weird bluey, purpley filter.
He really liked the Matrix? I don't know.
The Matrix had a green filter.
I don't know.
Is where did life come from?
That's
What?
a completely different question, my dude.
I'm taking a drink. That's stupid.
Yeah, I'm taking a drink too. Hey, we should see discontinuity between kinds. Now, where did life come from in the first place? Not the same question, my guy, and I don't know what Newton had to do with it, but okay. Unless maybe he's trying to say this is Louis Pasteur? I don't know. Maybe... Look, it's not like I can recognize every historical figure based on portraits, so maybe I'm wrong and it's not Newton.
Now, this is the law of biogenesis.
There is no such
The
law.
law?
Yeah, there is no such law. There is a
The
principle...
law of biogenesis.
Yeah, there is a principle of biogenesis. So, in science, when you say that something is a law, what you mean is that you have an observed mathematical relationship between two or more different things, right? So the law of gravity is that the force of gravity equals the gravitational constant times mass 1 over mass 2, all divided by the radius or the distance between the centers of masses of those objects squared, right? That's a scientific law. If it doesn't have an equation, it's not a law in science.
Yeah, it needs math.
Right. The law of biogenesis is just modern cellular life comes from other cellular life, which, like, okay.
The law of biogenesis is we have an example group of 1 and have life.
Yep.
The end.
Basically, there is no law of biogenesis. It's not a scientific law, period. It's a principle in cell biology, but it's not a law. Charybdis, who's been a member for 49 months, says, is it really blue, or have you seen too many AI images that with that urine stain filter? Yeah, what is up with AI and putting everything through the piss filter?
Dapper made me aware of Riot Games making an AI trailer, and I'm gonna have to talk about that tomorrow.
Yeah, they did. Jeez.
Oh,
That's my revenge for you telling me about tomato jam.
I feel like one is definitively a lot longer than the other one, but I feel like mine probably did more psychological damage.
Yeah, exactly. So this is payback. Also, I never said my payback was always going to be proportional.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, sometimes I go the thermonuclear option. All right.
I'm never gonna recover from this. Watch me tomorrow evaporate into my brain's gonna just evaporate into non-existence thanks to Dapper.
The magical brain smoke is just going to leak out of your ears. All right, we have a few things here. Let's see. Aiden Polomoeo. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, which I almost certainly am. Who's been a member for 12 months, says, it should totally be a standard drink trigger when a young Earth creationist conflates evolution with the origin of life. I mean, it's not like a stated drink trigger, but it's usually stupid enough that we're going to drink for it anyway, right? Lieutenant Matt the Navigator for 499 says, maybe it's a cosplay of Picasso circa 1901 to 1904. Yeah, maybe. Narondopus for $2 says, it's Isaac Pasteur, cousin of Lewis Newton. Oh, I see what you did there. Yeah, Isaac Pasteur, cousin of Lewis. Oh, I hate that. That scratches my brain in exactly the same way as tomato jam. Yeah.
I think Riot might have taken the trailer down already.
They did. They took it down almost immediately. But here's the thing. Once something makes a splash online, positive or negative, it's never going away.
Yeah, I gotta find a copy of it now.
Like, there are probably videos that are on my channel that I could delete, and they would actually be gone from the internet. But when you're a major game publisher or developer, and you release AI slop as a 3-year celebration, like a 3rd anniversary celebration video, yeah, that's not going anywhere.
Oh, I found a copy.
Oh, okay. All right, here we go.
Easy.
It's called Life Comes from Life.
Cool. Hey, here's a fun thing about laws. Did you know that reality is actually not under any obligation to follow scientific laws? In fact, we have examples of laws that have been overturned, at least under some circumstances. For instance, Isaac Newton, the guy who is probably on screen, remember how I told you the law of gravity? That was Newton's law of gravity. Did you know that it's actually not true under some circumstances? It doesn't actually do things like explain the precession of the orbit of Mercury. We need a much more complicated version of the law of gravity that Einstein developed to actually explain things like that. Newton's law also does not do a good job of describing black holes, whereas Einstein does. So even if something's a law, that doesn't mean that it's just an objective truth about the universe. What that means is that there is a mathematical relationship that humans have noticed and that has been reliable under the conditions in which humans have been examining this phenomenon. That doesn't mean that it's always true. That doesn't mean it couldn't have just been a coincidence. That doesn't mean that it won't ever change. Laws are not some thing sent down from on high. Just like all of human learning, they're things humans created. The universe didn't create the law of gravity. The universe has gravity in it. It is a thing that happens in real life, in nature. But the law, that's a human invention. And it's subject to change.
In the 1668, Francisco Redi demonstrated...
Oh, it's Francisco Redi. Yeah, I would never have recognized a Francisco Redi portrait, so, sure.
That when you had a piece of meat, it didn't transmutate or spontaneously generate into maggots and flies. Yep. He isolated the meat, and then there were no more maggots or flies because they didn't have microscopes. So they didn't know that these were laying eggs here, and the eggs were showing, right? So they just sort of saw it as transmutation. And if you remember, the whole concept in the Middle Ages, and even earlier perhaps, was this alchemy idea that we can get gold from something else.
Those are not terribly closely related ideas. Alchemy was a sort of, pre-chemistry. There was a lot of spiritual stuff going on there, but the basic idea was using mostly non-living substances to transmute into other substances. Because people had noticed that when you mix certain things together, you get a reaction, and a new substance that doesn't seem like just a plain old combination of the previous substances comes out of that. And so they had all sorts of ideas about, how the classical elements factored in, and whether or not there was any relationship to like astrology and all this stuff. And yeah, most of it was just a bunch of nonsense, but they were trying. But what is actually being refuted in terms of like getting rid of abiogenesis, or not abiogenesis, spontaneous generation, is something else, which is called vitalism. Because one of the longest standing questions in science up until that point was, what is it that makes something alive? And so there wasn't a great answer, but the one that people had kind of settled on was this thing called vital energy. There was this substance or energy or something like that, it wasn't very, very clear, that gave a life force to something. That's why we still have stories about life force in fiction, right? It's this holdover from vitalism. And so the idea was that when you have a piece of meat, that cow that it came from, in this case beef, right, had vital energy. That's what made the cow alive. But when it dies, the vital energy doesn't simply disappear. It starts to dissipate into the environment. And chunks of the cow, like the meat, will have part of that vital energy because that used to be a living part of a living cow. So what does the vital energy do? Well, it spontaneously organizes other bits of matter into new living things. That was the idea for how maggots came about. So this was not about proving that life only comes from life, because it didn't do that. In order to do that, it would have to test every conceivable and possible combination of all chemicals that could ever have led to life under any circumstances, and test them under all circumstances. Obviously, it didn't do that. What it showed was that vitalism had a serious flaw. And it turns out that the flaw was that life isn't about some kind of special vital essence. Life is actually just basically a series of sustained chemical reactions that take advantage of energy gradients to stay at thermal disequilibrium in a thermodynamic sense with the environment. Which means it's just regular old energy in chemistry, but very specific kinds of energy in chemistry. And so that's what was going on here. It was the defeat of vitalism. That's why we don't talk about life force in science anymore. We leave it to like movies and fantasy stories and vampires and whatnot. Which, hey, that's fun stuff. Keep going. I'm not going to tell you not to do that. Let's see. Roshina for $4.99 says, also, laws of thermodynamics are only true on the whole, usually. It gets extremely complicated at smaller scales. That's true. The laws of thermodynamics are all statistical once you get down to the quantum level. And it turns out that none of them are hard and fast, like, this must happen. This is the only possibility. Let's see. Joshua Geese for $5 says, Isaac Newton's eyeliner game is fierce. I do like pointing out when people who are trying to portray themselves as like alpha male manly men put on some guy liner, and it's like, hey buddy, what's that around your eyelashes? What is that? Because like, as far as I'm concerned, hey, I don't care who you are. If you want to put on some makeup, go for it. Sometimes when I appear on camera, I have some foundation on because I have shiny skin and it can clip the camera. So,
Men
like,
are cute and they should be allowed to be cute.
yeah. And like, just look, if you want to wear makeup, wear makeup. Who cares? Be happy with your life. Don't be embarrassed to be wearing makeup if that's what you want to do. Lieutenant Matt the Navigator says, Dr. Justin Sledge just got a headache and has no clue where it came from. Yeah. By the way, Dr. Justin Sledge has basically been fired from his teaching position. So he runs a channel, Esoterica, which is an excellent channel talking about the history of magical and mystical practices, especially in like the West. So if that's something you find interesting, or you just want to help out an academic who has basically been fired from his teaching position, mostly for budget reasons, or
Are they in the good old US of A?
oh yeah, yep, yeah. Check out Dr. Justin Sledge. Yeah, he's really cool stuff. In fact, he mostly focuses on medieval practice, but he has stuff that goes all the way back to like ancient Sumerian and Akkadian and Egyptian and early to late
You're writing a
antiquity
book
stuff.
or playing Dungeons and Dragons or some
Great
tabletop
resource.
variation. Great resource.
Yeah. So hey, please check out Dr. Sledge, because he could use the support. It's a rough time. It's a rough time for everyone. I get that, but like, he's doing a valuable service, I think, by running a YouTube channel where you can learn about a part of history that is very often neglected. And no, he is not trying to tell you that all these magical practices will actually have real scientific validity to them. He's telling you about how people used magical practices in their lives in the past. Which, whether or not magic is real, is still an interesting thing to learn about. And if you're, like Jesh said, if you're running a Dungeons and Dragons game where magic is real, you can get ideas as to how it might work. So, because, hey, maybe the magic item that wards off the devils in your game is actually a spell bowl with a warding prayer written inside of it in the style of the Mandaeans. Would you have known about that had you not been watching Dr. Sledge or me telling you about it? No. So there you go. Roshina for $4.99 says, ketchup being made from tomatoes is a relatively recent invention. That's true. It used to be made much more often from things like mushrooms. And sometimes
Was
even
it
having some
better?
fish. I mean, so it was basically a way to get MSG before we found out how to isolate MSG. So if you have a dish and you're like, oh wow, this dish could use ketchup, and you mean tomato ketchup, then no, that would not have been better. But if you have a dish and you're like, oh hey, this could be a lot more savory, then yeah, it would definitely have been better, because it was basically just as pure MSG as you could possibly have gotten back then.
Nice.
Yeah. And hey, MSG is amazing. I always have MSG in the house. Just takes whatever you're eating, if it's savory, and makes it extra savory.
Right? The goose laying the golden egg, right? So this idea of transmutation was even in the biological realm. And so this was sort of a transmutation, and he said, no, that's not what's happening. If the meat is dead, it's dead. And there's nothing coming out of it. Now, before Francisco Redi, here was a way of creating life. And this is a true recipe for creating life.
I mean, it's true in the sense that it was actually a recipe. It's not true in the sense that it works. But
I'm drinking because that was just a dumb way to say that.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair. Oh, and with the super chats, do remember, you can say something about AIG is a bag of dicks, and it will also make us drink, in addition to reading out whatever else is on the super chat.
You have old underwear, and you add wheat hulls, and you put this in an open recipient, and what happens after...
I think he means receptacle, but again, English is a second language. We're going to let it go.
21 days, works every time, you get a whole family of mice.
I mean, you will. So in the sense of, like, if you want to get mice, that will probably do it. Because mice...
You want ants?
Well,
This
yeah.
is how you get ants.
Thanks, Mallory. You know, that's a meme format that needs to make a bit of a comeback, because I really like that meme format.
Okay, whoops. Happens every time. And so it would appear that there's some transmutation going on here.
No, it wouldn't.
And it works.
No, yeah, it wouldn't. We know what's going on.
Not in the sense of the word that you're using it. This is a bait and switch. It's changing one thing into another thing. It's like, yeah, but that thing isn't literally changing. You're just doing something and getting a consequence.
Well, that's kind of his point, though, right?
I guess.
Oh, you know what? Heather Kuhn, did you cover the Kaiju drink dryer? I don't think I did, yeah. If Mothra or Godzilla come by audibly, we'll take a drink for that. And that's dapper as a professional for me not covering that one. We'll take a drink for that. Also, how does Heather Kuhn not have a membership? Someone help Heather Kuhn out. Get us some memberships. Come on. Also, I gotta say, this elderflower tonic is actually pretty darn good. But also, it's like $7 for 4, what are these, 200 milliliter bottles? Which is like, that's too much. Yeah. What is this? Tonic water for rich people? I need at least 3 times more channels for this.
Works. It's scientifically observable, except if you close the recipient, of course, it doesn't work anymore.
It's not scientifically observable. It's just observable.
I mean, I guess you could do it scientifically, like, you know, record what you're doing, write everything down.
Yeah, you could write it down and make it scientific.
Yeah. Because remember, the difference between just messing around and science is careful note-taking. Oh, and there's Joshua coming in. Joshua Eats for 5 Dapper Dinosaur memberships. Let's see if Heather Kuhn got one, though. Oh, wait, nope, that was Matthew. I was like, oh, yeah. Nope. Oh, man.
Good try. Roll the dice.
Zerolon says, that's why I make my own syrups and liquors. That does sound good. My brother doesn't really drink much anymore, but he used to make his own bitters. He would make his own, like...
Making your own syrup, simple syrups, is a good way to go.
Yeah, I've done that. And it's good stuff. I also sometimes make honey syrup. Because the thing with honey is you actually have to water it down a little bit to get it to mix into a cocktail. So basically, just add some water and some honey on a stove, and just heat that up, get it to simmer a little bit, and then once the honey dissolves, you're good. We'll take 2 more drinks because I only got 3.
I did all 5.
Yeah. You're clearly a heavier drinker than I am. That's what we're going to go with.
I guess.
You know what you signed up for when you came here. Part of it involved vicious mockery. That's right, the bard spell. It's a cantrip, which means I can cast it as much as possible. All the time.
Yeah.
Never run out.
Yeah.
It's also a fun cantrip to learn if you're not a bard, but you have a high charisma score, and you take, like, the magical adept feat. Okay, I'm going to take vicious mockery, so that way I can make fun of you till you die. Literally.
It is a good one.
Yeah. I'd like to make players actually come up with an insult, though.
Yes.
Like, okay, vicious mockery, what do you say? Although, I would accept non-verbal ones. Like, if you were a bard and you just had, like, a slide whistle, it's like, every time something bad happens, I do a down slide whistle. Every time something good, and and that's my vicious mockery. Like, okay, I'll allow it.
I'll allow it.
Slide whistles are fun.
Life comes from life. Now, later on, there came the question of, could it happen with bacteria? Maybe bacteria can...
No, there wasn't the question of could it happen with bacteria, because it absolutely cannot. Because bacteria are modern, highly evolved, highly specialized life forms that have a history that stretches back like 3.5 billion years into the past of their evolution. Luca was not a bacterium. It would have been radically simpler than any modern bacterium. So when he says, could it have happened with bacteria? He's conflating bacteria because they're smaller and they are simpler than eukaryotes, but he's conflating that with, like, the first life forms. And
as a small person, I find this insulting.
Yeah, well, that is the thing that creationists do a lot, is they'll just say, like, oh, hey, Chihuahuas have less information than Great Danes. You know how you can tell? Because they're small. It's like...
It's literally not how any of that works.
Yeah, it's like, so are you saying short people have less information? Does Peter Dinklage have less information than Shaquille O'Neal? Is that a thing? Is that how that works? Because I feel like that's not how that works.
I mean, considering Shaquille O'Neal seems to think the Earth is flat, yeah.
Okay, Michael Jordan, then. We'll go with a different NBA player.
I don't think Michael Jordan's a better choice, but sure.
But is he a flat earther?
I think he might be something else, but I don't remember.
I mean, I know he was a crappy baseball player.
I learned that from watching Space Jam.
Really? I learned it from looking at the TV and seeing Michael Jordan on a baseball field and saying, "Wait, what's happening?" And then someone was like, "That's Michael Jordan. He joined he joined MLB," and I was like, well, "That's dumb." I was like, "Yeah, he's really bad." I'm like, "Oh, okay, that makes sense." Well, I'll bet he was a draw for the crowd, which is really what they care about. All right, here we go.
Spontaneously arise. And so Louis Pasteur, who was a top scientist, a top theologian.
Actually, don't know if he was a top theologian, but, like, sure, why not? Isaac Newton was a prolific theologian, although of the kind that most Christians would find unacceptable, because he was, like, a non-Trinitarian and all sorts of stuff. So most Christians, if they read Newton's theological works, would be horrified. Because, I mean, look, the Trinity is a major thing for most versions of Christianity. Most versions of Christianity are like, it's Trinity or get out. And, like, hey, they get to decide that for themselves, I guess. Sure, whatever. There are non-Trinitarian versions of Christianity. There are binitarian, there are Unitarian, there are modalists, all sorts of stuff. I guess modalism would be a kind of Unitarianism. You know what? This is not Christian theology debate hour. I don't have to talk about all of that stuff. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go and refresh this drink, and we'll be right back after we watch the teaser trailer for the next episode of Star Trek Adventures, which is Forests of the... No, we just did that one. This one is The Assessor's Gambit. The Assessor's Gambit. And you'll hear the voice acting skills of, I don't know, some lady that I got to read the voiceover for this. I don't remember her name. Something to do with a cat, I think. Alright, we'll be right back.
Captain's Log, Stardate 60384.8. We've been recalled to the Narendra station, where Admiral Hebert and General Kargan have called my senior staff and I for a major scientific briefing. The fact that the other captains and staff assigned to the Expanse are here too doesn't bode well. I suspect someone has figured out how to put together some of the puzzle pieces we found over the last several months. I'm deeply curious to see what the picture looks like, though I admit to a certain level of dreadful anticipation as well.
After a scientific briefing, all the ships assigned to Narendra Station are sent to the Candidate 3 system, which seems to be artificially constructed. Unfortunately, they are not the first ones there. They will have to race to discover the secrets of the Shackleton Expanse while the enemies of the Federation are doing the same thing. They will encounter an alien being, seemingly from beyond time, and while there may be some answers, they will also raise more questions. Can the crew survive, keep their fleet intact, and gain the answers the Federation and the Klingon Empire need? Find out in the Assessor's Gambit, only on the Top Hats Off channel. Okay, we are back. Thank you for sticking with us, everyone. Looks like pretty much everyone did. I really do appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed that teaser trailer featuring, I don't know, some person's voice and mine, obviously. Yeah. So, that is the show that we do on Fridays over on Top Hats Off, my other channel. If any of my mods could put the link for that stream in the chat, that would be appreciated. Now that we're back from our break, I do want to say, first, thank you so much to everyone who helps out with this channel in terms of, financial support, because here's the thing about YouTube. Using it as an income stream is extremely precarious. You never know when YouTube is just going to change their algorithm, when they're just going to decide to just give you a fake community guideline strike for no reason, like actually did happen to me a couple years ago.
Bag of dicks is going to strike your channel falsely.
Yeah, exactly. Like, there's very little guarantee. And so the people who support in reliable ways are basically the only source of security that comes from having this as a major income stream. And so that especially includes the Patreon, because YouTube can't take the Patreon. But it also includes, channel memberships, because those are regular. They don't depend on the algorithm. They don't depend on, how many super chats I get in a day. So those are also great. Both of those start at low prices. For the Patreon, it's $1 a month. For the memberships, it's $1.99. You can get a 15% discount on the Patreon. The Patreon is linked in the description. Memberships, there's a join button right below this video. You can also gift those, which is not reliable in terms of, month to month, but it still helps. Both of those get you access to my Discord server. Both of those get you access to videos that come out early. I'm hoping to have a video out this week, hopefully in the next few days. So those really go a long way. Of course, super chats, super stickers, gifting memberships, super thanks, those also all really, really help. And yeah, it's a source of stress that I don't know how much I'm going to have at the end of next month, right? I just don't. And it's because YouTube is YouTube. And so anything that you can do to help that out would be great. Also, here's another thing. If you can't afford it, then don't, right? This is something that should come out of your entertainment budget, right? If you're scrimping together dollars to afford your chicken nuggets, then I don't want your chicken nugget money. But if you have some extra money in your entertainment budget and you like what we do here, feel free to help out. I really do appreciate it. And also kind of depend on it in a very literal sense. Let's see, we have a couple things. Robert Adset, who's been a member for 30 months and is at the Amniote level, says Newton may not have been a Trinitarian, but he was He was a dab hand at numerology. That's true. He did do a lot of numerology. Evil Ginger Miniatures for £5 says Gutsy Gibbon does a good Canadian accent. Winky face. Maybe she.
We've played and done games with Gutsick Gibbon. I don't know
Yeah.
if you're familiar.
We have. I wonder if maybe she'd be amenable to doing a one shot at some point on Top Hats Off again. That might be fun.
Oh, I bet you she would, as long as she has time.
You know, we have some one shot opportunities coming up because once we finish season 1 of Star Trek Adventures or Star Trek Endurance, we're taking a little break and as an opportunity to let other people run things on Top Hats Off. And Maddie has requested a week to test her Scots versus Cats TTRPG. Yeah. Also, we've had Zerolon is going to be running some Alien TTRPG stuff, which I think is a really fun system. There's actually a rule from that system that I've grabbed and used in other games, and it's your role for supplies, right? So, like, if you have a limited supply of like food or air or something like that, then anytime something that would stress that supply happens, you roll a d6 for each point of supply you have, and every time you roll a 1, you lose a point. And so, like, that really keeps the tension up, because, like, you just don't know when you're going to run out of air. It could be right now. You could have full air, and you could get a really bad roll, and just completely run out of air, because you just hyperventilated too much or something. And I love that rule. It's also a super deadly combat system, which is great, because it's Alien.
It is a lot of fun, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to playing some more Alien. And also to not be running every game. Sometimes I like to take a break from being the GM. So, anyway, I have a fresh drink. Chesh, I assume you do too. All right, let's go.
For 5 years, he studied the question of microbiological formation, and he demonstrated scientifically after 5 years.
5 years is not very long.
In terms of a scientific career, no, it's not. In terms of how long it would take to watch a play, yes, it is.
Everything is relative.
Yeah. And despite that, it's only 1/12 of the time that it takes to watch the play The War in Heaven. As a 30-year play. And no, there is not a transcript available. So I don't know what to tell you. But that's a 40K reference. There's a play in Warhammer 40K that takes 3 decades to watch in its entirety.
Bacteria is dead. It's dead. It's not going to get alive. And you can't take material and have a bacteria appear. He published in 1859. I find that fascinating. Does that year ring a bell to any of you?
I mean, it's a year that I know existed, so sure, I guess it rings a bell. I hate this. Creationists every once in a while do this thing like, what else happened in 1859? And I think it's like the publication of The Origin of Species, which, by the way, doesn't address the origin of life, like, at all. It basically is like, I don't know, maybe there was a pond. I don't know. It's like, yeah, maybe. Because no one knew. But yeah, this is also why I had that gag in one of my videos, where I think it was like Georgia Purdom was like, what else happened in this year? And so I just went and I found like a list of like 100-something things.
I've done that
happened.
before, where it's just you go to the Wikipedia and it's like of that year, and
Yeah.
it tells you all like the major events.
Exactly. It's like these are things that happened in that year.
1859? What else was published in 1859?
Yeah, it's The Origin of Species.
Is he actually seriously asking this church group what happened in 1869?
59.
As if they would know?
Yeah, he is. Which I wouldn't expect anyone to just know that off the top of your head. Like, if I went into an
I would
evolutionary
expect
biology
a
classroom
of biology students to maybe know the answer to that.
I wouldn't. And here's why, right? Most biology students are never assigned The Origin of Species, because who cares? It's a book from over 100 years ago that doesn't really matter that much anymore, except for historical purposes.
Not because I think they read the book.
Well, the other thing is, not being a scientist doesn't mean that you know a lot about the history of science, even the history of your own field.
Right. That's a good point.
The Origin of Species.
Oh, take a drink for confirmed prediction.
The Holy Spirit gave us right away 2 choices. Life comes from life, or you just evolved from a bacteria.
Okay. Life comes from non-life in the Bible, Laurance. when God says, let the seas bring forth, the sea isn't alive, Laurance. And if you want to talk about life in terms of like biochemistry and like the chemical system that makes a thing alive, like a bacterium, because I'm pretty sure you don't mean that bacteria have souls, if that's going to be your definition for life.
The call is coming from inside the house.
Yeah, so if by life we mean like the actual functioning chemical systems, then God isn't alive in that sense. So even if you say life came from God, well then that's not life. Because God isn't a living thing in that sense. Now, sure, you can get into stuff like, well, what about like pre-incarnation appearances of Jesus and all sorts of Theobro stuff? But how about this? If we're going to be very technical and theological about it, God in his energies may have produced life, but in his essences is not a chemical system in thermodynamic disequilibrium with its surroundings after taking advantage of energy gradients. How about that, Laurance? We can get apophatic about it if you want.
You're gonna get accused of word salad.
Believe it or not, that actually was not word salad. That was a bunch of actual
I know
Christian
it
theology
wasn't.
jargon. And also, I get to use the word apophatic on a stream, which is always fun. I always like being able to use the
Drink
word
for
apophatic.
apophatic.
Apophatic is a good word. Yeah, we'll drink for it. That's fine. I'll take it.
You're just stardust. Okay.
What's wrong with being stardust? This is one of the things that creationists say that bugs me. Like, are you just an ape? Like, what the heck is wrong with being an ape?
Dapper almost dropped the F-bomb.
I did. I came really close. Like, seriously. Oh no, you think you're just an animal? Well, I'm not a fungus.
I'm not a fucking fungus, dude.
Right? I
look like a ficus to you?
I have to digest food internally. I don't have mycelia or anything.
I don't photosynthesize, bro.
Yeah, I'm not a plant either, seriously. Jeez.
So, life comes from life. Let's repeat it. I'm going to ask you to repeat a few things. You walk out of here, you'll still remember some of what I've said today. Let's repeat it. Life comes from life. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Life comes from life.
Okay, but that's not what Louis Pasteur or Reddy or anyone else demonstrated in the abstract. They demonstrated that modern cellular life comes from previous cellular life that is also modern cellular life. That does not mean that there couldn't have been pre-cellular life. That doesn't mean that it's an objective rule of the universe. Because remember, finding out that bacteria come from other bacteria and flies come from other flies is not the same thing as saying it is impossible for chemical systems to self-assemble into recognizably living organisms. Do we need a goal to unleash Dapper? I'll tell you what, if we meet this goal, which we only have about a half an hour. Oh no, we have a whole hour. Well, we have 45 minutes, basically. We have about 45 minutes to get 39 super chats. We should do it. We could do it. But if we do it, I will be unleashed. So that's your goal. Oh, and let's see, we got a couple more things. Olivia Williams for 279 Beaver Bucks says, I'm a fun guy, hee hee, Ghidorah, and I'll take a drink for that, Ghidorah. Yes, fun guy, I like it. Pegajace, the Pasta Apostate, has gifted a membership. Thank you very much. We will take a drink for that gifted membership. Getting us just that little bit closer to Mudkip Davis. Because that's one goal, is for the super chest. But also, I noticed
You got a lot of goals around here.
Well, it helps. I like to be like housed and fed, and you know.
Clearly, I should do more goals. I do have a cow print goal.
Do it. Yeah, more goals.
It's the option between spice and spice. I've got spices, and then I got spices. You know what I mean?
Things that like drawing too many circles and getting your stream taken down. That kind of spice.
I never got my stream taken down. I'm not a fool.
Well, okay, fair enough.
All right.
You were fool enough to share your feet pics with me.
Law of biogenesis. Right away, that's a really... Now I'm not going to solve something. You've probably lost a lot of...
that. How dare you?
Those are just going into a folder called Chesh Blackmail Material, just in case.
No!
It's such a full folder.
sleepover, and the question we're gonna solve right now is which came first, the chicken or the egg? Now,
Okay, guys. Creationist asked the question, so now I gotta ask a question. Here we go. Which came first? And we're gonna do an analogous poll. Which came first? We're gonna do turtle or the turtle egg. So there you go. So now no one can complain that I didn't use turtle.
Oh.
Yeah. The thing is, this is actually a harder question to answer than the chicken.
It
or
is
the
a
egg.
harder question to answer.
Yeah. This is actually one where it's not clear what the right answer is, because when it comes to the chicken or just the egg broadly, it's the egg by a lot.
Yeah, it's the egg.
this is a very important thing to solve. Why don't we have a vote? Who thinks the egg came first?
Hey, we're also
Hey,
doing
do
a
you
vote.
get a drink for a prediction? Because he's doing a vote too.
Yeah, sure. Well, let's do it. I'll take a drink. I don't care.
Me and Dapper just like to drink together.
That's true.
That's why we're here.
It's at least 80% of it. But another like 15% is me mercilessly mocking Chesh.
Having a job.
Well,
Oh, that too.
yeah, the whole thing is the job. That's 100% of it actually. And then like the last 5% is like responding to Laurance.
Mm.
Yep. Lieutenant Matt the Navigator for 499 says, so Pasteur's experiment proves something, in quotations, but Lenski's and other evolutionary experiments aren't evidence. Yeah, basically. Yeah. The actual observed in the lab instances of evolution, not important.
I think Zerolon is asking a good question. Define turtle egg. Is it an egg that comes from a turtle, or is it an egg that hatches into a turtle?
That is something for you to decide. I'm not going to answer that, because I didn't think about it that hard, and I don't want to.
Good Dapper's computer contents. 15 terabytes Blender access, 1.3 gigabytes prawns, 90% Chesh blackmail.
Okay. I actually don't think there's any prawn on any of my hard drives, because why would I do that? But actually, we can find out about how much is Blender stuff. So let's see. Let's pull up my file browser. Let's find out, right? Put in your chat what your guess is, right? Put like an over-under.
The prawn and the blackmail are the same folder.
So let's see. Oh, it's still
Oh,
calculating.
petabytes. Okay, my bad.
Petabytes for pedicures. No, that's a manicure.
Pedicure is a anime.
Or it's also when you do like your toenails. All right.
No, oh, actually, sorry, it was pretty cure. Pretty cure is what it is called.
Pretty that's one I'm
Yeah.
not aware of.
It's similar to panty and stocking, but not R-rated.
Oh my goodness, it's still calculating. It's going past 700 gigabytes for my Blender files folder. We're past 800, 900. Jeez, I really do have a lot of stuff. It's over
You're gonna have to let
300,000
Laurance
files.
do his vote while this loads.
Jeez, yeah. All right. All right, here we go.
Who thinks the chicken
terabyte.
came first? Who's waiting for the right answer to lift up their hand? Okay, all right. Well, actually, you see, my bachelor's is in agriculture. I grew up on a farm, and I
That doesn't help you answer this question, Laurance.
can tell you that, yes, chickens lay eggs, but that egg isn't going to do anything on its own. In actual fact,
Yeah, but some of the eggs are, Laurance. We're talking about
That's
fertilized eggs.
also not an answer.
Jeez, I'm taking a drink. That is the stupidest crap. I think we're coming up on 2 terabytes now. Jeez, I didn't know it was this big of a folder. I don't think I've ever actually like just checked the properties and been like, hey, how much is in here? We're
Who
coming up on
downloads their prawn anymore? Let's be real.
yeah, no one. We're coming up on almost 1 million files in my Blender's folder. There's something wrong with me.
have anything happen
Don't
to
know
that
what,
egg,
but something.
you gotta have a rooster. You don't get an egg that does anything unless you have a chicken and a rooster.
Yep.
Somebody tell Laurance that female women humans produce eggs.
I hate this is somehow going into like what is sex, as if like that was a same question as which came first, the chicken or the egg.
This should not come as a great revelation to you, but it's a very important thing to remember because it all of a sudden makes this question.
Oh, it stopped. Okay. I have 1.91 terabytes of stuff in my Blender file, in my Blender folder.
Hold on, I'm gonna
so,
go double
sorry.
check and see what they said. 1.19, did you say?
Yeah, 1.9. No, sorry, 1.91
1.91. They said 15.
terabytes.
Yeah.
Way less than that. But this is let's see. Yeah, I've got 804,967 files in 7,731 folders in my Blender files folder, which is not technically all of my Blender stuff, but it's most of it, the vast majority of it.
That's a lot of Blender.
Yep. Well, that's the accumulated like data from about a decade or so of using Blender.
It's like 10 years worth of Blender.
Yeah. So like, oh boy, is that a lot? Jesus. I never really looked at it. Roshina for 199 says, untrue, chickens have gone through parthenogenesis. I am unaware of this, but that does seem plausible. It is not something that is unknown for especially reptiles. And birds are reptiles. I don't know if you knew this, Chesh.
I've heard rumors.
Yeah. Yep. Birds are reptiles. They're as much a reptile
I've
as
heard
a
rumors that
crocodile.
reptiles isn't even a real word.
It depends on how you define it.
Nonsensical. The question is only, where did the rooster and chicken come from?
Jeez, dude. That's the same question. I hate this man. Going on this whole long tangent where it comes down to like, hey, so let's answer the question that I asked in the first place, just with more clarity as to exactly what I'm asking, that you already assumed is what I was asking anyway.
I kind of feel like this guy's watched a little bit, like he's not totally doing it, but he's probably been to a Jordan Peterson lecture.
I mean, they are both Canadian.
They are also both meandering when they're speaking.
True.
And we'll get to the damn point.
I'm just gonna go with they're both Canadian, and thanks Canada. You stop cursing the rest of the world with your like weird pseudo intellectuals.
I will give you one thing about that is that Jordan Peterson is from Alberta and Laurance Tisdall is from Quebec.
The worst provinces.
I don't know. Saskatchewan's going for a run right now.
Yeah,
for
they're in
being
third.
a bunch of dick waffles.
Plus, that's where Mikey Smith is from.
Ah!
And oh boy,
Let's go.
I'm actually subscribed to Mikey Smith, and every once in a while I show up in his live streams. But it's always a game of like, how long am I going to go until he says something so disgusting that I need to go away from the stream?
All I have to say is that America needs to spend way less time picking up our garbage, like Jordan Peterson, for example.
Yeah.
Stop picking through our trash.
Also, Canada needs to spend way less time sending us their wood smoke.
Well, you don't want to talk to me about that.
Okay. RBTMDL, who's been a member for 51 months, which means that this is probably someone I actually know by a username. And I'm sorry. But they're at the amniote level and says, animals have been laying eggs long before there were chickens. Or turtles. And yeah, that is true. And there's a Godzilla attached, so we take a drink.
Olivia Williams for 279 says, but I'm from Quebec. I actually enjoy Quebec. Quebec is lovely and beautiful.
Quebec is one of the only two Canadian provinces I've been to. I've been to British Columbia and Quebec. That's it. And
Quebec is lovely.
it is really nice. I enjoyed my time there every time I went. I used to live in a place in Massachusetts where you could get on a train, and you would get off the train in Quebec if you wanted to.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. There'd be a customs checkpoint. And
I'm mostly making the joke because they're both like now separatist provinces, and Quebec is less separatist than Alberta right now, and it is very, very funny. I'm sorry for my political joke.
I actually have a fond memory of one of my trips to Quebec where we were on the train and we're stopped for the customs check, right? So the customs officer comes on board, and I'm sitting with my friends next to me. And he's got all his bags, and so he's struggling to explain where he's coming from and everything, because the customs agent is not great at understanding his accent in English. And so I'm just sitting there watching, thinking, like, I wonder how long it's going to take for them to actually manage this communication. And so then the guy comes over to me, and he clearly realizes that we're traveling together because, we're sitting right next to each other. And he's got this, like, the most exhausted look on there. And he's like, I'm going to have to go through this all again. All over. And so he's like, he asked me, like, the first question, and I just say, c'est la même chose. And he's like, okay. And he just accepted that, and he just checked my bags. And he was like, thank God.
Get me out.
Yeah, I was just letting my friend and that guy flounder, just flap in the wind there as they were trying to communicate. Just thinking, like, man,
no.
I told my friend to brush up a little bit on French.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. He didn't. He didn't learn a damn word of French.
Oh.
Yeah, it was rough. I was also the only one who could read any of the signs. So,
Oh no.
yeah, we would be walking around and we'd see, like, some sign somewhere. I'm like, Dapper, what is that? He didn't call me Dapper because before I started the channel, whatever. Like, Dapper, what does that sign say? And so I'm sitting here, I'm like, okay, I guess I'll read this entire plaque from a historical memorial somewhere in the middle of, like, Montreal. So I'm sitting there, like,
I
trying
should
to
move to
read this.
Quebec just for the French.
I mean, you would probably have to brush up on it to get by.
I'd have to do more than brush up, but yeah.
Yeah. My Unfinished Journey, who's been a member for 29 months, is at the amulet level, says, Chesh, I'm still waiting for the Canadian Wildfire Whiskey with a fire and a whiskey emoji. Get on it, Chesh.
It's gonna, that's gonna cost an extra 30% tariff right now. What do you mean?
Not if you smuggle it.
Not if you're smuggling, he says.
The Dapper Dinosaur channel does not endorse the cool crime of smuggling liquor across the Canadian border.
If I ever become a smuggler, I'm making sure I have a license plate that says solo on it.
I'm not sure, but there was a time, probably about 25 years ago, where I think I might actually have smuggled cigarettes. I'm not positive. I don't know
Maybe.
exactly what the rules are, but, like, possible. I might have been a cigarette mule.
I definitely have experienced things that have been smuggled.
Okay. Well, look, I'm not saying that I've ever been at, like, say, my dad's place and there were Cuban cigars going around. I'm not saying that's ever happened. But if it had, that would have been smuggled. From Canada, specifically. Because no one's smuggling Cuban cigars directly from Cuba into the US. That's stupid.
Yeah.
Egg. And that's not my problem. I'm a creationist.
Okay, cool. Then why did you bring any of this up, dude? It's not my problem. I'm a creationist. Remember how earlier I said I hate this man? He's doing nothing to change my opinion of him. Lieutenant Matt
In fact, you paused it, said that, hit play. He said another 3 words, and you said it again.
I really don't like this guy. Look, he's the kind of guy I would have to struggle not to punch, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. Like, he's so damn smug, and he says the stupidest shit.
He's smug, yeah. I was getting that vibe, too.
Yeah, I mean, look at that smile right there.
He thinks he knows.
Yeah. Lieutenant Mathematics 499 says, smuggling Canadian liquor is a time-honored tradition. This is correct.
Yes.
Yeah. Look, I don't encourage people to smuggle, but, like, it's a noble profession in many cases.
It's a noble... I think it depends on what you're smuggling.
That's why I said in many cases.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are cases where it's not a noble profession, like if you're smuggling slaves or some crap.
I think smuggling slaves is actually a good thing, because generally you're smuggling slaves out of slavery.
No, I mean smuggling people into
Otherwise
slavery.
it's called human trafficking.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I mean human trafficking, Chesh. That's what I mean. I don't mean, like, smuggling people to Canada so they can be free. I mean sneaking people into slavery.
If Pokemon were real, both Dapper and I would be part of Team Rocket.
I didn't say that. I'm not really going to counter it, but I didn't say it.
Uh-huh.
All right. This is what Darwin says. You have a Temple of Darwin down the road there, Natural History Museum.
Oh, I don't have the Darwin prayer handy. Oh, man. I should have had that handy, but I didn't know. I'm sorry, everybody. But this is definitely a moment. If you haven't seen my prayer to Darwin, It's one of like my 5 ever shorts. Check out my shorts page and go look at the Prayer to Darwin. It's really good. Josh McGee's for $5 says many cases of Canadian whiskey. Smiley face. I mean, look, I like Canadian whiskey. Although I found out that some of the Canadian whiskey in the US is actually just Canadian style whiskey produced in the US, and that kind of pissed me off.
Yeah, that happens a lot. There's also like a large number of things like that with in Canada, one of the things you'll find is there's a lot of brands of food that are labeled with like American locations.
Yeah.
So like New York fries. But New York fries is not from New York. It's a Canadian fry company. It's not it's not American at all.
I have Vermont curry in my kitchen right now, which is a Japanese company that makes Japanese style curry. But it's called Vermont curry.
I think there might need to be a law against that made because, like, it's kind of a problem.
And so the thing is, it's really only a problem for me when I care where it came from, which I usually don't. But like the last time I bought Canadian whiskey, I did.
But maybe.
Okay.
But maybe.
But I also really don't care about like the Champagne region of France and their monopoly on champagne. That might just be because I don't care about France. Sorry, France. Cheese-eating surrender monkeys? Well, yeah. But they're cheese-eating
when
surrender
Canada joins
monkeys.
the EU, all of that will stop.
Oh, yeah. You're going to have to follow all those labeling laws. And you won't be able to get, like Miller, the champagne of beers will be illegal in Canada.
Oh, no.
I know.
What a shame.
One of the worst American beers will be illegal in Canada. What are you going to do? You'll have to drink Canadian piss water.
I mean, we already aren't selling American beer.
I'm assuming that that's probably not going to be a permanent thing, but like, what do I know?
Yeah, I think it might. I don't think it's going to be a permanent thing, as in like like the government or the companies intervening. I think it's going to end up being a mostly permanent thing because nobody's going to buy anything American because Canada is full of petty bitches.
Look, I'm expecting that, like, 20 years from now, trade relations in North America will probably be renormalized.
Probably.
And there probably
but
won't
Canada
be a lot
is full of petty bitches, and they're not going to buy American. They're not, especially bourbon. The bourbon market in Canada is dead.
Yeah. TikTok official, who's been a member for 39 months, says, why wouldn't you be allowed to bring liquor from North Minnesota, aka biggest? I mean, it's not that you're not allowed to; it's that you're trying to bypass the tariffs, right? Like that's why,
laws,
yeah, that's one of the reasons why cigarette smuggling is actually a thing in the United States. And I wasn't actually cigarette smuggling because I wasn't going to sell anything, but like inside of states, cigarette smuggling is a thing because if you can buy cigarettes where they're cheap, then you can sell them in places where they're heavily taxed, but sell them on the black market for under the taxed value, but over the value that you purchased them for, which is why there's a black market for cigarettes in certain parts of the United States. And it's a similar idea, right? So if there's like a 50% tariff on Canadian liquor, and you bring it across the border, and you charge a 10% surplus, well, hey, you just made a bit of a profit.
Economics.
Yep. It's yeah. That's called
the economics of the ins and outs of economic smuggling with Dapper Dinosaur.
I mean, it really is just basic economics, right? That's the whole point of taking goods from one place to another. Is you can buy them for cheap here and sell them for more there. It's just that in some cases, when you do that, you're doing it by evading various laws. Like
I knew a guy who what he would do is he would look for games that were on sale at EB Games or Blockbuster and then check the buyout price at the other store and buy them out at one store and trade them in at the other.
Nice. Hey, I mean, it works. And by the way, the word I was looking for is called arbitrage. So arbitrage is when there is a significant price difference by location.
I'm drinking for arbitrage.
And you can, if you can get a price, if you can get a profit by moving it from the cheap place to the expensive place and selling it, that's called arbitrage. That's an arbitrage opportunity. So smuggling is just an arbitrage opportunity where the cause of the arbitrage is various laws banning something or imposing exorbitant prices on something.
Why, if all
Borg was asking, does Dr. Tregan know how YEC reproduce? Probably.
Yeah, probably.
species are descended from one another through subtle changes, do we not see innumerable transitional forms?
Okay, we're going to take a drink because he is citing The Origin of Species, first edition. Chesh, you might not have known this, but there are 6 editions of The Origin of Species that have been published.
And could you give me a date?
Well, the first one was 1859, but I don't know exactly when the other ones were published.
And what date is this video we're watching from?
Oh, this is, I believe, from like 2023, 2024, something like that. But
So there's, needless to say, there's been updates and he has no excuse. Got it.
Yeah. So the reason that creationists like this... Oh, drink for Mothra. Mothra came by.
Hey!
Hi, Mothra. So the reason
Mothra's
creationists
great.
like...
I love Mothra.
She is. The reason creationists like to cite this passage from the first edition is because in subsequent editions, Darwin changes this section. Because you know what was found? The transitional forms he was complaining about. I'm not kidding. They cherry pick which edition of The Origin of Species specifically because this chapter is one of the ones that changed the most. Because by the 6th edition...
This has gotta be some of the dumbest...
That's not dumb. That's dishonesty right there.
I mean, like, dumb as in you're dumb to lie about something like that.
Oh,
Because
right.
it's so easy to figure, like...
Yeah. So, in later editions, Darwin goes on about how geologists are coming around and how the new discoveries, and he lists a bunch of geologists have given extra evidence to all this. And also, Darwin was alive for the description of Archaeopteryx, one of the best transitional forms ever discovered.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, hey, cognitive trifurcation got double bongo, which I think he means bingo, but hey, well done.
Congratulations.
That's awesome. You win 2 internets, sir. Or ma'am, I don't actually know. Your profile picture makes it look like sir. So I'm going to go with sir unless you tell me otherwise.
In other words, he's saying there's discontinuity. I don't see the transitions. Why is nature not in confusion instead of being so well defined in species?
That's not something Charles Darwin said, even though he said it right after a Charles Darwin quote. It's not.
I don't know if you want to try to define terms loosely, like why is nature in or not in confusion?
Yeah, like how would you measure that?
What do you mean?
Right. I did end the vote. So which came first? Turtle Egg won with 62% of the vote. Turtle came in with 37% of the vote, and that is out of 59 votes.
Nice.
Well, no, it would be nice if it were 10 more votes.
It'd be more nice.
Yeah.
It'd be nice instead of nice.
All right.
Even Stephen Gould says this, the evolutionist.
Oh, get ready for a Gould quote mine. This is going to be stupid, isn't it? They love to quote mine Gould. Here's why, right? Gould wrote a lot about criticizing what he called gradualism in favor of his punctuated equilibrium theory or hypothesis. And so, if you just carefully quote around the parts where he says gradualistic accounts or gradualism or things like that, you can really make it sound like he's critiquing evolution per se when he's really not.
Yeah.
In fact, Gould, while he was still alive, complained explicitly about this phenomenon in an interview where he basically talked about how infuriating it was to be cherry-picked by creationists interminably in what seemed like a dishonest manner, although he wasn't quite willing to say that definitively. So, yeah.
The extreme rarity of transitional forms in the fossil record persists as a trade secret of paleontology. That means...
Okay, so let's take a drink because Gould addressed this specific quote mine explicitly in his writings. He noticed this was being quote mined, so he talked about it. I'm going to have to paraphrase here because I don't have this in front of me, but this is basically a Trojan source. Gould also says that it was infuriating to be misquoted by creationists as if he was implying that there were no transitional forms when what he meant was there are no transitional forms at about the species level, whereas they're abundant at the family level and above. What he was saying is, we don't have a lot of fossils that can explain how we went from, like, the common ancestor of tigers and lions to tigers and lions, or wolves and coyotes. But, and he went on to list examples, we have lots of examples of transitional fossils of how we got cats and dogs from a common ancestor. Gould did not think there was a paucity of transitional forms, period. He thought there was a paucity at specifically the species level, and he wasn't wrong about that. So, in quoting this, we're doing exactly what the title says. We're cherry picking here. Laurance is a proud cherry picker. You can tell because he's always got that shit-eating grin on his face while he cherry picks.
Speaking of shit-eating grins, you guys should definitely go and watch the most recent episode of On Top Hats Off.
Yeah, Star Trek Endurance. Yeah, I might have had one of those grins as a result of something that
He might have
Chesh
had
figured
one
out.
of those
Yeah.
grins.
Mhm. I think it was fully justified, though.
Absolutely, 100%. It was great.
Oh, yeah. Guys, we really do have a lot of fun with that. You should check it out. It's a good time. And unlike this, I'm much less likely to get angry because we're having fun. We're not talking about creationism. Although sometimes I do annoy Craig by pointing out anything I can do to connect to anything we're doing to flat earthers.
People who study fossils, they know this issue.
No, they don't. They don't know the issue you think you're trying to tell people about. They do know the issue that Gould was actually talking about and that you're currently telling lies about, though. Oh, for $2, Charybdis says it's a shit-picking grin on him. Yeah. Exactly. Maybe he's picking shit cherries. That's what's actually happening. I don't think we're going to get to the point where I have to do a poll about changing my tie color, everybody. No tie change today, unless
I'm currently screen grabbing the shit-eating grin on Dapper's face.
Nice.
From, if you want to see it, it's at 53 minutes.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to change my tie color based on a poll. Sorry, everybody.
The evolutionary trees that adorn our textbooks have data only at the tips. The rest is inference.
Just the tips, everybody. Yeah, that's how cladograms work, right? You feed in a number of organisms, and those all become the terminal ends of your cladogram. By definition, that's how it works. You can't have those named taxa be anything other than the end of all the branches. You're literally just complaining about how math is done. And hey, Laurance, if you want to come up with a new way to do the math for cladograms, feel free. But until you do, maybe stop lying about them as if this was some kind of great problem that needs to be solved.
However reasonable, not the evidence of fossils.
Yeah, that's just describing what a cladogram is, dude. I'm taking a drink.
Do we drink? Yeah. And it's one of those things that, like, people do this, and people do this all of the time, and it drives me up the wall. It drives me crazy. They ask questions, and this isn't, like, exclusive to creationists. Creationists do it a lot in their talks, but, like, people in real life do this. They ask a question thinking they're being smart as if there's no answer to the question.
Right. When it's a
And
very
it's like,
clear,
have you
obvious
even
answer.
tried to Google it? Like,
Yeah.
have you even looked to see if there's an answer to the stupid thing you just asked?
Mm-hmm.
The answer is no. The answer is always no.
Yep.
Ugh.
And it's because they don't
I don't
want there
like
to be
it.
an answer. TikTok official for 200 Argentinian pesos says, I know animals were created because there's no possible world where Cotylorinchus is the fittest of anything. How dare you insult my baby boy like that? Cotylorinchus never did anything wrong, and I don't want to ever hear you talking poorly about my son ever again.
Cruel.
My goodness.
Cruel.
Why do I even let these people in my chat?
Do I have enough time to make another drink or nah?
Nah. You should have done that during the break.
Well, I wasn't finished my drink yet because I was actually following the drinking rules for once.
Well, you refresh it. You pour like
What?
half the amounts back into your glass to just fill it back up.
No. It just means I'm gonna have, for next time, I'm gonna have flat ginger ale.
Well, you finish it after the stream.
I guess I could make another drink now and then finish it after the stream.
I'm going to hit play. I can't stop you from getting up. I physically don't have the power. I'm too far away. I would if I could, though.
Most species, says Gould, exhibit no directional change.
Yeah, species at the species level, Laurance. Gould's whole idea was about small breakaway populations going to different locations than the main bulk of the species lived in, undergoing rapid natural selection and huge amounts of genetic drift, and then appearing as larger populations themselves, which in some cases even sweep into the original habitat and displace the original species.
This
He's
is
talking
why
about this specifically in that context. Sorry, go ahead.
this is me running away is why Dapper killed Hawk.
Okay, I don't want to get too into behind the scenes stuff, but that's not true. In case you're wondering, that's Captain Hawk, the captain from our previous Star Trek game, Star Trek Lexington, which is Star Trek Endurance is a direct continuation of that whole
Spoilers.
storyline. So, in fact, also, I did a previous one, Star Trek Prelude, that was my first time running... no, it wasn't my first time running Star Trek Adventures, but it was my first time in a while running Star Trek Adventures. It's a whole big story. Yeah. There's a playlist. It's got like 50-something videos. Go watch it. It's a lot of fun.
It's a good time.
Yeah. And also, on each video you watch, you're required to give a $100 super thanks. Otherwise, I come to your house.
We are getting into the season finale soon. So...
we have one episode this Friday, and then the next episode is the season finale for season 1 of Star Trek Endurance.
Oh, no change? During their tenure on Earth, they appear in the fossil record looking much the same as when they disappear. Morphological change is...
I mean, that's not actually true, though.
Huh?
So, it's generally not true for species, like Gould said it was. He was overstating his case, I think. But also, we have this thing called chronospecies, which sounds like a really cool video game from like the 90s from Japan, but it's not.
It does.
Yeah. But what a chronospecies actually is they are part of a series of things that we've given different species designations to, not so much because of some kind of like biological species definition or like an ecological species definition, primarily based on different morphology, but where we know that this morphology is actually on a continuum with at least past species in the same genus and possibly future species, right? So some of the most famous examples, but they're not the only examples, are the genera Triceratops and Thalassocnus. In Triceratops, we have Horridus and Persis, and they just smoothly transition into each other over time. And when you get the earliest Triceratops fossils, they're very distinct from the latest Triceratops fossils, but they just smoothly transition.
Just to throw a wrench into Tisdall's whole shtick here, since he has done agriculture and is like a plant biologist, you know what doesn't really get talked about in the flood narrative? Plants.
Yeah, how did the plants
And I don't
survive?
mean to be the bearer of bad news, but flooding and turbulence is really bad for a lot of plants.
Yeah, you'd think he'd know that. Also, so Thalassocnus is a sea sloth, if you can believe that. So it is a species of sloth that live in the ocean, and there are 3 distinct species of Thalassocnus, except they're not actually distinct because they smoothly transition. Oh, I've disconnected. I'm sorry, we just lost connection over on OBS for a second there. So I'll go back and I'll say, also, when it comes to hominins, Homo heidelbergensis is probably a chronospecies with Homo erectus. You see a pretty smooth transition into there. And then, depending on how strict you want to be with your definition of Homo erectus, if you want to be very strict, then we can also say that other things that we call, in some cases, other species, like Homo longi or Homo luzonensis, are also chronospecies that diverged out of Homo erectus. So while it is true that for most species, we don't have a lot of smooth transitions to and from that species over time in the fossil record, It's not true for all of them. And here's the thing, right? Laurance needs there to be none. If there is a single chrono species, then species can turn into other species. And all he's doing here is talking about species fixity. Now, I do suspect that later on in either this presentation or another one, he is going to claim that it's okay for species to create or to evolve into new species because of adaptation and kinds, like he said. But the quote he's reading is about species. And he's wrong to say that this means species are fixed, because that's the only argument he could be making. And if he does, in fact, then go on to say that speciation is okay, then it means that what he's reading here is something he should know better than to read, because it doesn't say what he needs it to.
Usually limited and directionless. He says, no matter what local zonation, wherever they are, species do not appear gradually, rather they appear suddenly and fully formed.
Yeah, he's talking about punctuated equilibrium. There's a reason why he's not saying phyla, or orders, or classes, or families. Because he's specifically...
Or kinds.
Yeah, or kinds. It's specifically because Stephen Gould is talking about the evolution of things like lions and tigers, not cats and dogs, or mammals and reptiles. He wouldn't have made... In fact, he explicitly stated otherwise about those organisms.
It's
Now,
almost
which model is this?
it's almost like Tisdall is weaponizing the complexity of the field of study.
I wouldn't say it's almost like that. I'd say it's...
Tisdall is weaponizing the complexity of the field of study.
There you go. There you go. TikTok official for 200 Argentinian pesos says, H. heidelbergensis, H. neanderthalensis? Why are there so many gays in Germany? Is that why the Berlin flag has a bear on it? Yes. I'm going to go with yes. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Also, yeah, I guess the Neander Valley is currently in Germany, isn't it? Is it? I think it is. But it's in like that part of Germany that's gone back and forth between France a few times, if I remember correctly. Yeah, it's like that. Like, you get those areas in like Western Germany and Eastern France where like village to village, which language people speak can change. I think they're both in those areas. I think it's in that area.
I was live earlier today and I was watching the Nebraska town hall and I had to pause the video and look up where Nebraska was in the United States because he started talking about his concerns about the border. And I was like, what does Nebraska border? What are you worried about?
If it helps, I think most Americans would also have to look up Nebraska. It's one of those states that people just kind of forget about.
South Dakota and Kansas are coming for you, Nebraska. You better look out.
But yeah, like there's a few states where like even Americans are just like, it's somewhere in the middle, I think.
Yeah, I mean Nebraska's pretty slapped in the middle.
Yeah. Lieutenant Matt the Navigator from 499 says, all the plants became rice for the duration of the flood. Noah had to tend walnut patties for centuries. Oh man. Rice farming is not easy stuff.
Yeah.
Actually, one thing that people don't know, some people don't know about like American history is that the stereotypical picture that we always get of like slavery in the United States is cotton plantations. But when you're getting close to the Mississippi, it was almost always rice farming. And that's what the slaves there were doing. And
I mean, there's that, and there's also like the issue of whenever you see footage in the United States education system when you're learning about World War II, your teachers do not tell you that all of the footage was destroyed from World War II, except for the Canadian footage. So the only footage you're ever watching when you're talking about the D-Day and the beaches is all Canadians.
Yeah. But yeah, and that's the horrible backbreaking labor that was done by slaves on rice farms is ignored, and it is not easy work. And I don't like that the American imagination when it comes to the horrors of slavery just kind of ignores that huge swath of people who were enslaved to farm rice specifically. Because again,
when I think of the like specifically
work.
United States, it's cotton fields and it's train.
Yep. Well, you should also think about rice.
Train tracks. Rice, yeah, absolutely.
Yep. A lot of people had their health ruined as a result of having all of their freedoms stolen away from them. so they could be forced to work basically to the death on in rice paddies in the United States.
Current human society, all of human history is built on suffering and trial and error.
Yeah, that's not a terrible.
And some of those things are reasonable, and some of them aren't. Some of those sacrifices were necessary, and some of them were not.
Yep. Big Horse thinks about rice a lot. Me too. Especially, how much rice do I have left? And the answer is a little bit over 15 pounds.
Nice.
Yeah.
Rice is great.
I haven't bought rice in about 2 years.
I need to make more rice.
I probably do too.
I need a new rice cooker.
My rice cookers were doing pretty well.
Maybe next month, the funding goal can be getting me a new rice cooker.
There you go.
They're like $10.
Yeah, they're not much.
They're not
Is this-
expensive. I'm just kidding.
Supporting the creation model or the evolutionary model?
It's the evolutionary model. The fact that you're lying about an evolutionary biologist doesn't mean that his quotations that you're cherry picking support your bullshit, Laurance. That's not how anything works. Like, I want you to think about this. Do you think Laurance actually thinks that if he gave this talk to a still living Stephen Jay Gould, or Stephen Jay Gould's ghost that came to haunt him from the afterlife, that ghost or the living Stephen Jay Gould would actually agree with Laurance and his characterization of his positions? Stephen Jay
I don't know.
Gould,
I feel like somebody needs to make Laurance sit down and listen to somebody reading out the whole passage.
right? But, like, really, think about that.
I would be fascinated to sit down and have a conversation with this man, because it would not go well, and it would be funnier if it was Dapper having the conversation.
For $1.99, Roshna says triangle shirtwaist. Thank you very much. But I really do want you to think about that. Do you think Laurance actually thinks that if he gave this talk to a still living Stephen Jay Gould, that Stephen Jay Gould would come up and say, "Yep, I agree with your characterization of my position"? Do you think he actually thinks that that's what he would get as a response? Obviously, the answer is no. And here's the thing. If you're using someone's work and you don't think that they would agree with how you're using it, you might be cherry picking.
I did a stream once upon a time that was like 8 hours long, where I was talking to a guy who doesn't like me. If you want to go find it,
did he know
it's
how many levels there are in Mario?
No, it's that you don't think what thinking is.
That doesn't answer my question.
Well, yeah. It was I don't think what thinking is. It was an 8-hour conversation. It took me 2 hours to get the person to actually engage in the conversation, but that's not the point. The point of the conversation was the difference between what somebody literally said versus what they are trying to explain to you, and trying to like bridge that gap in communication, because there is a serious, like, particularly when we have dishonest agents, right? And I would be willing to say Laurance is a dishonest agent in this scenario, where he is dishonestly picking out the literal words that somebody said in a snippet that is not only taken out of context, but also isn't even bothering to try to understand the intent behind what was being said in the first place. And if you're going to not only ignore there is something to be said for the death of the author, and saying like, hey, listen, the author's opinions don't matter. We're looking at the concept, but you still have to look at the context and the concept in the first place if you want to kill the author. If you're not willing to kill the author, or you're not willing to give the context, then you require the author's intention if you want to understand what's actually being said. And there's a difference between recognizing what the author's intentions are, and also recognizing if you remove the author and their intentions, what do you come to the conclusion of, neither of which are done any service by removing the context and removing what's actually being said.
Plus, Laurance isn't doing a death of the author because he needs the author to mean what he says, because the entire reason he's quoting Gould is because Gould's an evolutionary biologist who has some authority to talk about evolution.
He's trying to lean on Gould's authority, which is not only dishonest and egregious, but offensive in nature.
George says for $4.99, Stephen Jay Gould's ghost is working overtime. He sure is. He sure is.
Yeah,
All right.
he's an infinite energy machine just fucking spinning down there.
Yep. So we are at the point where we now have come to. We're past 2 hours by a little bit. Chesh, you got 10 seconds to tell people what's coming up.
Go watch me tomorrow. I'm going to be talking about Riot's AI art nonsense. I'm funny. Bye.
All right, that was just about 6 seconds. What's coming up here is I got a show on Thursday, I got a show on Friday over on Top Hats Off, and I got a show on Saturday, and then I got another show on Tuesday with Maddie. So check all those out. And I'm also going to be doing the next 4 episodes of Power Rangers Dino Fury over on the Discord. We only have one more day after today of Dino Fury. Then it's on to Once and Always, and the first 2 episodes of Cosmic Fury. Then it's 2 days of Cosmic Fury, and then we're on to Godzilla. So, come hang out with us as we finish up Power Rangers. With that
I
being
still
said-
hate that our funding thing is sideways.
Well, you make a new set.
Just flip the
No,
flip the text.
no. The text is flipped. Watch this. See? Ben Gets Free Pizza is correctly aligned.
Bye.
Bye! Hey, before you leave, I just want to take a second to thank my patrons and channel members, especially those pledging $20 or above. Ben Tovand, Tapioca Weasel, Arrow Dodger, Caleb Anderson, Dan Sheedy, Eleron Teller, Phil Cavara, Ian Chen, Kelvin Brostock Van Manen, Landon Knoll, Mabdy Babdy, Sphincter of Doom, Volis, North Texas Fossils, and John Ackerman. It's because of my channel members and patrons whom you're seeing on screen that this channel can stay afloat. Without you, it would all shut down. If you want to join the team, there's a link to join the channel below this video, and there's a link to join the Patreon in the description. On the Patreon, you can get a 10% discount for pledging annually, and either way, you get early access to virtually all of my scripted videos, often 3 to 5 months before they come out for the general public. Thanks for watching.